Hi, this is Teresa Bray, the CEO, Executive Director of the Allegan County Community Foundation. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Combined Tag and Legacy 2021 grant application process. We've made a number of changes this year, mostly to have respect and appreciation for what COVID might be doing to your organization in terms of the requirement of you to pivot and adapt to the changes required for your services and programs. So we've made a lot of changes, and I want to walk you through that process and hopefully answer some questions. So I think the biggest change that we've made this year is that we're putting the application into a software program called Jotform, Jotform. I really encourage you all to take a look at this program. It is free. It also has a couple advanced levels that are very reasonably priced, and I believe half price for nonprofits. But it will do wonders for your organization. It really captures information well. You can download data as Excel spreadsheets. It's really tremendous. So do take a look at it. It also makes the process a lot easier and user-friendly. So I'll walk you through that. A couple housekeeping points I want to share with you first. If you do not have your contract, your progress, or final report in, you must do so before we review grants for the next year. Your organization will be disqualified if we don't have those pieces in prior to your grant application coming in. I also want to remind you that we've gone digital with the Nonprofit Spotlight. If you're not familiar with the Spotlight, please take a look on our website under Communications. It is the nonprofit publication that highlights all of your organizations and tells your story and your value. Because we've gone digital and we've cut way back on costs, we took the price down to $25 a quarter, and we're allowing 2 articles, multiple photos. Everything's going to be hyperlinked. It really is a tremendous opportunity for you to tell your story. And lastly, I want to make sure that everybody has access to the foundation at this time. We're all still working remotely, but you can reach us by cell phone or email. So please take advantage of that. So what you see on your screen here is what you will see when you see the link up on our website to share this new application. So the application is on, as I said, this Jotform, and it walks you through every step question step by step. So this first one here, you have to scroll through it to see the entire message, but this is basically the basic questions of, are you eligible to apply for grants? So you're going to have to be a tax-exempt nonprofit that serves residents of Allegan County. Are you current with your state and federal requirements? So have you submitted your 990 to the IRS, for example? Have you turned in all prior progress and final reports? If you said yes to that, welcome to the application, and let's get started. One of the things I love about this application, I want to highlight up here. There's a red mark up here. Every time you see a red asterisk by a question, that means it's a required field. So you plug in your name there and then click next. If you don't plug something in, it will bounce it back to you. So you can't leave anything blank. So I'm going to just, because I will get bounced back, I'm going to fill in all these fields as we go along. So we've got your website address, of course, your organization's address, just the basics here. Now, if you haven't applied to us before, a primary contact is the person that, while we're in middle review and somebody has a question, I can pick up that phone to you and say, what can you tell us about this? We've got a question. It does not have to be your executive director. It doesn't have to be your program director. It can be most likely whomever writes the grant or who has the most knowledge about the program that you're asking funding for. So I'm going to go on to the next one, and then of course that person's contact information. And here's another neat component of this Jotform process. If you don't put in a proper email address, it won't take it. So if I had typed something wrong there, it would have bounced back. So here we've got the name of your executive director, or if you're a volunteer-driven organization, your board president, their email, and again, and this time I'm going to do it erroneously so that you can see what happens. Whoops, sorry, it took it. It shouldn't have taken it. Live and learn, right? Technology. Okay, the amount of your request. So you're going to plug in the dollar amount that you're asking for. And then the purpose of your organization. You're welcome to put your mission statement in here. I would encourage you to expound upon it if it doesn't give us enough information. We do have new committee members this year, so you won't offend us if you tell us a lot more detail than you're used to telling. Again, a required field, as you see this asterisk up here. Now, this is your annual operating budget for 2021. This is not your program or project budget. This is the entire organizational budget. So if your organization has a budget of $200,000 this year, you're going to plug that in there. Now here is another header message, and this one you have to scroll through. So what we've done is we've combined the tag and the legacy applications. We will have young people sitting on the review committee alongside legacy committee members. So you only have to do one form. So below, I'm going to ask you to choose, are you applying for both tag and legacy, only tag, or only legacy? If you're applying for tag or tag and legacy, you must give your program information as it relates to children. So in this case, I'm going to apply for both tag and legacy and then go on. Now this year, again, because of COVID and appreciation for, the unknowns that we're all facing, we have really come together to decide that we want to encourage you to apply for general operating grants this year. And basically what that means is, you get your funding, say, in March or April, and you have to pivot again as an organization because your fundraisers were canceled for the second year in a row, your donations are down. This will allow you to spend these dollars unrestricted. If you were to apply for tangibles like program curriculum or something, you would have to come back to the foundation, make a special request that may or may not be approved to redirect those funds. General operating will allow you to pay salaries, it will allow you to pay overhead, rent, anything that comes under the cost of running your organization. So we really want to encourage you to do that. Having said that, we want to make sure too that we do our due diligence to our donors. So we're going to ask for some specific questions related to general operating. So I'm going to walk you through that part. If you were to say, no, I'm not going to apply for general operating, I want to do a program grant, it's going to take you to a series of questions. If you say yes, which I'm going to do here, then these are specific to the general operating request. So in here we're asking you, how has COVID-19 impacted your organization? And please be as specific as your organization requires. Did it impact you financially? Did you have to cut back on staff? Were you lucky enough to add staff? How about volunteers? Did you lose some volunteers, or have they kind of stood back for a while and you don't really know yet? Whatever the point in time information is when you're filling this out is what we're looking for here. So the second general operating question, be as specific as you can, although we understand that things may change, but if you're asking for operating, how do you anticipate using those funds? And if you do end up pivoting, you'll be telling us about it in the progress or final report, but you won't have to ask permission up front to redirect those funds. And your third and final question for the general operating, please detail the entire range of services offered. The current status of those services, did you take everything virtual? Did you have to make some programming go dormant because virtual just doesn't work? Have you been able to maintain your services, or have you kind of pulled back? Whatever that information is, be as specific as you can be. So this is back to the normal grant application. Using statistics and data relevant to Allegan County, describe the strategy your organization will employ to serve Allegan County residents. So anybody who's applied to us before, this is a basic question, and it's basically saying, what data are you using to suggest that your services are necessary to serve Allegan County residents? If you do a smoking cessation program and 72% of the population smokes, fabulous. That's how your information will translate from data to program driven. How many Allegan County residents are expected to be served by your organization? Now, a lot of organizations will say, well, we serve everybody in the county because our services are available to everybody. That's not quite what we're looking for. You would know from previous years, how many on average do you serve? And what are you anticipating serving this year? So you're going to plug a number in there. And then the goals of your program or services. If you're requesting funding for, again, let's go back to educational, then the goals might be that your preschoolers learn the alphabet, that they learn how to count up to 15, whatever those very specific goals are, that's what you want to state here, because that's what we grant funds for. So if you had those goals and we gave you an award, your grant is based on those goals and your success toward those goals. Now, if you did a general operating request, please also put the goals for your programs and services in here as well. We're not going to know, especially if you're new to us, we're not going to know what kind of services you have, what kind of goals you have, and general operating is a tricky one to kind of wrap your arms around. So for both of you, please go ahead and put those goals in there. Now, this one discusses how will you evaluate your programs and services or your general operating funds. So in terms of general operating, of course, it's easy. You were able to pay for 3 months of rent and utilities. Your programs and services, you may have been able to say, we increased our participation because we went virtual by 37 more people because transportation was no problem. Are you going to evaluate that based on a pre-survey, a post-survey, observation, whatever details you can provide on how you plan to evaluate is what we're looking for here. Now, typically, our grant contracts let you spend the money up until early to mid-December. And oftentimes, anybody that's related to a school programming, that's difficult to do with the school start and end period. So it's perfectly fine if you're going to need an extension. So if you think you're going to need to request an extension, just put yes, and we'll talk about that later. So here's one that, because all funders like to see collaborations or partnership relations. This one lets you discuss if you're partnering with another organization. So say you're partnering with the Allegan County Food Pantry. You're going to plug in the Allegan County Food Pantry, ACFP, and you're going to say the role they play is they're going to offer space for a picnic. And that's what you're going to plug in for every collaborative partnership and their role. Please be sure that you relate the role as well. And then you're going to enter the answers to the following questions below. How many full-time staff? How many part-time staff? And then if there's an error, see, it won't even take, these are numeric only, so it won't even take the alphabetical number 6. So you have to type in a 6 or whatever your digits are. And again, we're looking for right now at this point in time. So here's another typical funder question. If you've identified this problem, this service, this provision that you could make, what's your strategy? How are you going to pull it off? Are you going to do your programming now virtually? Are you going to offer something that you mail out? Has nothing changed, and you're going to keep your program services or offerings exactly the same. If you note along the bottom here, this tells you how many questions you've answered so far and how many you have left. And currently we're on question 26 of 39. So here the program, how will it proceed if we give you partial funding? So you've asked for $7,500, we can maybe swing $5,500. One of the things we look at is at what point of what we're able to award is it worthless to you? If we said, I know they asked for 75 and we can only give 15, can you still pull the program off? We're $6,000 shy of what you needed. So we want to know if we could only give a partial grant, how are you going to make this work? And your answer might simply have to be, we're going to have to cut back on locations. We might have to take an 8-week class and turn it into a 6-week. Whatever that response is from you, that's what we're looking for here. The expected impact of the project. So this is a multi-layer one. This one can be the expected impact, of course, on the participants, perhaps your clients, but maybe the volunteers as well. If you're, how many times do we in the nonprofit sector understand how volunteers get so much innate benefit from the work they do? So you're not just impacting, when you give food away on distribution day, you're not just impacting those who are receiving the food, you're also impacting the volunteers and the staff who give food. So discuss what that impact looks like. That was another scenario where I didn't start to put an answer in there and it won't take it. So I love that component of job form. So then measuring your impact. This is, of course, the data that you want to know for yourselves. Was your program impactful or was it not? Are you going to continue it and based on what? So here's your chance to discuss that. So this is really nice too. You will not have to be making copies this year of any documents, any paperwork. This is an awesome component to JotForm. So here we're asking for your program or services budget, not the general operating. So I'm going to go in here. This lets me browse my files. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to grab this here. I'm going to put it in there. And as you can see right here, it's uploaded. It's as simple as that. So if you're applying for a general operating grant, don't worry about the budget yet. You're going to have a chance to do the agency operating budget later. This is just for your program or services budget. This is a component that, you know, if you and I were sitting and talking, I would really tell you without this, you're likely to not get funding. So budget justification is a huge component. If, again, let's go back to that educational example. If you're talking about offering curriculum for 30 adults and it's a self-improvement course, and there's a brochure that goes with it for the mailing purposes, and there's postage affiliated with the mailings, and there's a requirement platform that you have, or excuse me, registration platform, and every little component that goes into that program budget is what you want to do a line item justification for. In this example, it might be payroll. It's going to cost us $3,000 for 2 part-time staff. I also very slyly put in software. Go to TechSoup.org. If you haven't purchased Zoom yet, you know it's the way of the future. It's only $65 on TechSoup. If you're not familiar with TechSoup, go check it out. It's free software and hardware for nonprofits. So budget justification, very important. Don't skimp here. Here is where you're all going to upload your agency operating budget. Again, all you do is click, grab your document, and you'll see that it's uploaded that quickly right there. This one, we're looking for sources of the remaining budget. So your program budget is $10,000. If we can give you $4,000 because you only asked for $6,000, where is the other money coming from to finalize that budget for you? So one of the things in my grant writing class that I always discuss is never to ask for 100% of a budget. The message that you're giving is we're not really willing to invest in ourselves. We'd rather you invest, and we'll just kind of wait and see how it works. You need to invest in a program that you believe in, or you wouldn't have created it, right? So the first category here is, what are you putting in? What is your organization putting into this budget? The second one is, let's say that Perigo, you made a request to them of $1,000 and theirs is pending. So that's what we want to see, is the who, the how much, and whether it's pending or committed. So on this one, because this is also part of the foundation's due diligence, we want to know your board members by name and the city that they live in. There are a couple things we look for here. The IRS requires that you have a minimum of 3 board members. So that's part 1. And then part 2 is more information. If you're serving Allegan County residents, but you don't have a single board member from Allegan County, it's not necessarily a strike, but it might strike up a conversation for us to have, for us to encourage you to say, you know, we might, let's sit and talk about whether you need some board members to actually represent the people that you're serving. So here you're going to put Tom, and you're going to put the city Tom is from. And you can see back down here again, we're almost done. We just have a few questions left. Here's your IRS letter of determination. Again, browse your files, click on it, and it's right there. You're going to go to the next one. This is your 990 or 990N. If you're new to the nonprofit world, a 990 is the equivalent of a person's income taxes, but it's nonprofit paperwork for not necessarily taxes, but income and expenditures. If you have over, and I'm sorry, I don't remember if it's 25,000 or 50,000 in donations in any given year, you have to file a full-blown 990. If you have less than that, then you can do the postcard of the 990N, and you will get proof that you submitted that via email. I know it's an electronic thing that you can submit, so you will have some type of proof. So here you're going to, obviously you're going to have to have already scanned in your 990 so that it's a document in your computer. And you're going to browse your files, you're going to click on that 990, and there it is. Here's your most recent audit or financial statement. You may not do a full-blown audit. You might simply do a review or rely on a profit and loss statement. So you're going to plug in from your browser files again, whatever that document is. There it is. And next. Here's your final chance. If you have not submitted your progress or grant report from the previous year, if you have not, and there are several organizations who have not yet submitted their contract, and we will be in touch with you shortly. If you have not submitted these yet, this is truly your last chance before your grant application is disqualified. Drag and drop, it's right there, and we're going to go to the next one. This is a little different, and it's going to ask you to do one more step, but it's an important step. So what you're confirming here is that your executive director or board president needs to send an email to me at tbray@alleganfoundation.org by the deadline of this grant application. We probably will be a little lenient this year because it's all brand new, but basically it's saying that we're attesting to the truth and accuracy of the information submitted. It's very important that we know that your leadership knows, A, that you applied for this, and that they're attesting that the truthful information supplied. So again, failure to do so may disqualify your application. So you're going to click yes, I understand, and make sure it happens. Here's your chance. Because this is new, because it's very easy to just plug in very pinpoint responses, this is that segment of the application where you know you need us to know something about you. It might be something COVID-based. It might be something about your longevity, your value to the community, something that you haven't really had a place to put elsewhere in the application. Take your time. Don't worry about your length here. Be specific. And remember that we're reviewing 30, 40, 50 other applications this year. But do put it in there. I don't want you to feel like this application itself, especially with it being new, is handcuffing you. So I encourage you to go ahead and put that in there. So you're on the last question here. And what I love about JotForm, again, and you'd think I was a paid spokesperson, but I'm not, here is your review button. So when you click that, it's going to take you all the way through every single question that you responded to. You can correct something, you can update it. Here's a great example. Right here is an edit button. You can go in, change your answer. And then you can go through the rest of the application. So once you submit this, let me get you back to the end here. Let's try this. There we go. So review and submit. So everything looks wonderful. You're very comfortable with it. Once you submit it, you're going to get a response. And the response is going to pop up here as a thank you. We have received it. You're going to get a confirmation email as well. And the cool thing about the email is it will have the entirety of your grant submission. Everything you put in there, you don't have to have, cut and pasted and saved it into a Word document. It will come as your thank you confirmation. I encourage you to print it out, to email it, share it, tuck it away. But now you have the information that you need. So one thing I want you to know is I'm accessible if you need me. I have scheduled several openings if you need a one-on-one Zoom meeting, if I didn't answer your questions, or if you need to talk about a specific program that you're just not sure whether you should apply for. So if you do need to schedule that, you will want to be in touch with Vicki Knuckles at the Foundation office. And because we're still working remotely, instead of calling the office, I'm going to give you her email address. And it is VKNUCKLES. That's V Knuckles at AlleganFoundation.org. So I really encourage you, take a look at this program, take a look at the grant application. You can save it, come back to it, and along the way, email me if you need help. I'm at tbray@AlleganFoundation.org. And thank you for your patience. We had some problems with a lot of technical issues to get this out there for you, but I sure hope it works for all of us, and stay well.